So I don't have a script for this because usually I do, but today we're just gonna wing it. Back in 2014, Wizards of the Coast released Fifth Edition. Prior to Fifth Edition, all of my D&D adventures had been run in either a Grey Hawk, Forgotten Realms sort of world, or those worlds exactly that I just called the White Rose lands because that was the main kingdom was the White Rose Kingdom. Again, I wrote this in middle school, so it was very simplistic, good guy, bad guy sort of stuff. And so all through AD&D, third edition, fourth edition, that's where all of the adventure happened for me, or in one-offs in no defined setting. Come fifth edition, 2014, getting ready to be the guy to run the games for our group, and I'm like, as much as I love this old world, I don't want to touch it anymore because all of my notes have been lost. I don't remember the continuities, and it was a lot more high mythical, right? Like there were there were two warring good and evil wizards. Like it was very, I don't want to call it kiddie stuff, but it was stuff that I had been writing since middle school. So there were things that were in there that were important to me, right? Because I had written it and I liked it, but I acknowledged like it was bad. And not bad, but just not good. So, come 2014, fifth edition releases, and so I create a whole new setting, which is what this 368 page PDF is. It's that setting with a bunch of stuff. Originally, as you'll be able to read on this intro page, uh, we've been working on this for 10 years, multiple years. NaNoWriMo was spent updating different parts of this, reviewing it. I've been putting the finishing touches on it for at least 3 years now. And I reached the point where I had to do something with it, right? I either had to call it done or we were in the next phase of the project where it's finding professional editors, finding people who want to play test it, but you can't just ask people to play test your stuff, right? You're either running it for them because they're your friends, and then it's not really a play test, right? It's a little bit different. Or finding illustrators and graphic designers to get art. And that's when it moved from would this be a hobby to, well, this is actually going to require real world time and effort and money. And as I was making this debate, like, are we going to do this? Wizards of the Coast is like, hey, you know what? Fifth edition was so great, it made us so much money. But we also learned that, there are problems with fifth edition. Everyone kind of acknowledges that there's problems with fifth edition, from how monsters are made to adventures are written. Lots of stuff wrong with fifth edition. So they moved on and they changed it. I haven't had a chance to really do a deep dive into either the players or the DMs, but they've changed a lot. One of the most noticeable things, for me at least, was a lot of the classes have been power crept, A been been power crept, and B, they've just become a little more squishy and amorphous. You can do more things with each class than you used to. One of the most noticeable things, if you check out the subclass I made in here for the Aryssa World book, you'll notice that it does a lot of stuff with Second Wind, and Wizards of the Coast and I seem to have at least been on the same page with that. And so that's one of the reasons that I've decided we're going to package this up as a moment in time for the world of 5th edition from 2014 to 2023 and put it out to the world to do with what you will, besides try and make money off it. This is being given out for free, so don't try and make money off of it. I don't expect we're going to have any more updates going forward, just because whatever my next project is, it's not going to be this. And so PDF was made November 30th, 2024. So what are you getting in this 368 free PDF? Setting information. All of this is all just setting stuff. A subclass for each job available, including Artificer. Wizards, Artificer should have been in your player's handbook. Just live with it. Artificer is great. And that's the first half. The second half is for dungeon masters adventuring in Aryssa. For each of the major settings, we have, well, each of the 7 major ascents. We don't go into the other 2 settings, which I guess if I make an update, that's probably what will change. Is we'll add adventures in the Everbright and adventures in the Sun God's realm. We'll get into that, what that means later. But for now, it's adventuring in the mainland of Aryssa. And as you can come down here, you can see levels 1 to 5, 6 to 14, 15 to 20. And each of these adventures, there it is, follow the same sort of thing. It gives you the title, where it happens, levels, locations in case you care enough about the world that you just want to scan through the left-hand side looking for a location that interests you. How long of an adventure it is. You'll notice the first 1 to 5 is usually half an adventuring day, while the later ones are full ones. Creature types in case these are interesting to you, and then just little things to help you if you're just looking for stuff that was interesting. These aren't formalized. You can even see that I made some mistakes. For example, this was supposed to be combat should have probably been uppercase since everything else is. So again, this is what happens when I don't, it's hard to edit your own stuff. So what does an adventure look like in here? You get a background. This is what the players know. So, you could think of this like block text if you want to sell your players on the adventure. What's going on? This is for the DM, because sometimes there's stuff going on that the players don't need to know in the upfront, but you want to make sure the GM knows before running an adventure. Wizards of the Coast books are notoriously bad about this, where they'll drop stuff late in the book that recontextualizes things early in the book, which is fun for readers of that book, but terrible for a DM trying to plan. And so that's what what's going on is trying to resolve, is that there should not be surprises for the GM while going through the book. These adventures are not super tightly written in that there's going to be some exact quotes, but there's not going to be a whole lot of maps. I don't think there are any maps. Detailed dungeon layouts. It's very much, here are the plot beats you need to run this adventure, and then you, the GM, can fill in the rest. So you see we've got our encounters, we've got rules. I tried to make sure to follow the proper formatting. We've got different ways of resolving things. And there's 3 of these for each of the 7 ascents. We've got, for example, a bunch of other stuff that you can use, like sidekicks. And now let's go back to the top. Let's go back. Come on, Adobe, work with me here. After all of that, it wouldn't be a book without magic items. So here at about page 184, you've got magic items. And some of these are fairly generic, right? Like an artifice grenade. But a lot of these are stuff from the adventures, or specific stuff like specific stuff for the world that helps make the world feel a little more real and to give you some thematic items for this world. You can see lots of magic items. How many of them are good? I don't know. It's alphabetical, so there we go. We should be done. Then page 205, the Incomplete Naturalist's Guide. So over the 8 or 9 years of running, we had many, many monsters that weren't out of the monster manual. And so I've collected all of them here. This is something I've noticed. D&D monsters are both not durable enough at certain levels and pushovers at others. So this just gives you an idea that when I'm calculating hit points, this is how I did it. So if you want to do something else, you can, ignore it. Source isn't like a source book. On Aryssa, we've got different sources of magic. So there's some rules about, hey, make sure that if you've got magic types that they are doing some thematic stuff. We'll look at that section later, and that's what source is here. When we get to the end of the monsters, we're not actually at the end of the monsters when we get to the end of the monsters, because there's one last thing for GMs that I have in here that I'm particularly proud of. Because one of the things that I dislike about a lot of the monster manual monsters is that so many of them are just multi-attacks and moves. There's not a lot of creative monsters. There are now some, but during the writing of this, there weren't. Scent of Memories, that should be the last one of regular monsters. I should have put bookmarks so I knew what pages to go to on my own. Oh no, wait, the Sun God's Realm, and then there should be the Everbright. Man, there are a lot of. All right, my favorite part of the book that you'll be able to go through is not the world building, because that people can take or leave. You may not like it. My favorite part, and my favorite part of writing it, were these 20 monsters, a legendary monster for every challenge rating. This helped me build the world, helped me come up with some interesting stories, and this is something that I feel like if you look at these, this is what I feel like legendary monsters should have been more of. And a lot of the existing legendary monsters are good and fun and iconic, but these are much more gamey monsters with a little bit of lore attached to them. And so this is probably was my favorite part of making this, was making these legendary monsters. And that's it. That's the end of the book. So now that you know what you're getting, what is the world of Aryssa? Let's go here. Aryssa, so this is super high fantasy, and I want to make it clear that while it's very high fantasy, very weird, very, very epic and high magic, and a little bit crazy, at no point was anyone using any substance to come up with any of this stuff. This is all just the sort of thing that happens when I need to make an adventure at 2 in the morning because I'm running an adventure at 9, and so I need something. Here, you'll get the story of, the creation myth of Aryssa, but here's what we'll focus on here. So what does this mean the world looks like? Aryssa is literally a giant living snake coiling up. Ooh, hey, you know what? The link that I put up is going to have some typos fixed that are, like I said, I gave up on this midway through. There's still some editing to be done. The Everbright is a giant magical spaceship-like spear that was used to try and kill the snake, and now it's stuck in the ground, and so the snake is coiling up it so it can eat the sun. That is the world. Crazy world. I love it, and now I get to sort of, I don't want to say wipe my hands clean of it because that makes it sound like I'm giving up, but it's as good as it's going to get except for a few typos that I need to fix. What's at the bottom? How do the physics work? Yeah, there's also magic. Just, ignore it, right? Just relax. The 7 Ascents, again, we're high fantasy. They're related to the Vanguards, who are basically ancient dragons who support our giant sun-eating snake. And as you can imagine, each of the ascents that these dragons rule is got its own little bit of lore, some key locations, and how they fit into the rest of the world. I don't want to go into it too much because this is really just to try and sell you on the idea that you have here nearly 400 pages of monsters, magic items, world, inspiration, subclasses that is here for you to peruse, to look at, to decide if you love, or whatever. I'll have a link to the PDF in the description, but like I said, there's one thing I need to fix now that I scrolled through again and saw it, so it won't be this PDF, it'll be a different one. But this is it. This is the Aryssa World Book, 368 pages for you by me. Thanks to all of the people who have either played this with me, have listened to me bounce ideas off of, and I hope anyone who downloads it enjoys it. And this is this is also the second reason that I wanted to do this, and this is going to be where I actually kind of criticize Wizards of the Coast a little more directly. This is what I think a setting book should look like. First of all, you'll notice super long. And there's no pictures, there's no formatting. Uh, I think your world books should be bigger. They should include adventures. They should include something for every level of play. They should give some stuff that makes the world unique and special. And what they shouldn't be is they shouldn't be shoved into different books. Descent into Avernus is the example I'm always going to go to. The Baldur's Gate Gazetteer, being in the back of that book, does a disservice to the adventure and a disservice to the Baldur's Gate Gazetteer, which you probably could have expanded on greatly, sold on its own, maybe make it about a 200-page book with a couple of adventures, some stat blocks in there, a couple of Baldur's Gate special things, maybe even, I don't know, like give some continuity, some lore, a lot of stuff. Instead, we get the Baldur's Gate Gazetteer, which is great, but a terrible addition to Descent into Avernus. Even if you read this and you think, man, all of this is garbage, poorly written, and a little goofy, you should at least be able to agree with me that a setting book should be this dense. It should be something that the DM and the players both can get something out of. So that's it. I'm going to get off my soapbox about that. And about 17 minutes, not that bad. Getting better at going fast. Gonna do a second cut of the PDF, and then I'm going to post everything. So happy December.